Welcome to the Phoenis SQL Lite software training. I'm going to go ahead and start by explaining some of these tabs on the left and their functionality. I'm going to start off by going over the Settings tab. So here we have just the general information of current users stored inside of your Phoenis Lite software. In order to add new users, you would fill out the criteria here below. And then save in the top right-hand corner. Once you save a new user, it should populate such as this information here, and they will all be displayed in this window going downwards. Next, we have the Sites tab. And here is where we'll be able to go ahead and create a site. In order to create a site, we would fill in the information on this right-hand side, where you'll be asked for a site name, address, and location information, as well as a site manager. And you'll be able to save in the top right-hand corner after making changes. Up at the top, we have tanks, where you'll be able to come in, select tank data, where you'll be able to set up tanks and product types for each location. Here I'm just setting up a standard unleaded pump, and I'm going to save that to the site I've specified. Once saved, it's going to pop up on this left-hand side, in which we'll be able to click in and edit it if we needed to. And if you made changes, you can hit save at the top right, where there will be a save icon here. Next, we have pumps at the top. Here's where we're going to be able to go to set up pump configurations for each site. By selecting the drop-downs, we can set up pumps for each individual site and set up hose mappings for each pump at each location. Once your desired pumps are set up, go ahead and save at the top right-hand corner. Next, we have site utilities. Here, you'll be able to create backups of information inside of Phoenis Lite, and you'll be able to restore that information as well in this same function. You can back up for individual sites if necessary, and then save the file to your machine. Next, we have fuel provider. Here's where you can enter your fuel provider information, so that way you have record of it inside of your Phoenis Lite software. Next, we have pricing. Here's where you'll mainly be able to sort out the pricing per product for locations across the board. So here you would specify your current product codes, and then whatever price you would like each product code to be. So, for example, if our unleaded was product code 01, then we would be able to reprice to a certain amount and then send the prices to the FSC in the top right-hand corner. At the top here, we have terminal window. The terminal window is where you'll be able to go to directly communicate with the fuel site controller. If you wanted to manually connect to the fuel site controller, you would be able to open up the terminal window here. Select your desired site in the drop-down, and then connect. Next, up at the top, we have FSC status. Here's where you'll be able to go to determine the status of your fuel site controller. By opening up the FSC status page, up at the top, we see it gives us a selection for site, as well as the status icon. Once you select your site and hit status, it'll give us a current status of the fuel site controller. Next, on the left-hand side, we have accounts. Here is where we're going to go to set up account data inside of your Fuel Site Controller and Phoenis SQL Lite. And if you notice on the right-hand side, we have empty boxes here. This is where we'll be able to create a new account information. If you fill out the desired information for your account, you'll be able to then select an account status to make it valid or invalid, as well as selecting a contact name for a site manager. Once your details are all filled in, you would navigate over to the right-hand side where you'll be able to hit save. Next, we have deleted accounts up at the top. Deleted accounts is where you would go to restore any kind of accounts that have recently been deleted from Phoenis SQL Lite. Account information is going to populate below, and at which point we'd be able to select them and then hit restore. Next, on the left-hand side, we have cards. Here's where we're going to go ahead and start creating card data. So on the right-hand side, as usual, we have little prompts that we can follow to fill in selected items to create a card. You're going to go ahead and create the card by starting off with an account selection. So you're going to select whichever account that you want the card to be drawn to, as well as the card type, the card number, and a name for the user who owns the card, as well as a short name. If you wanted to instill any kind of restrictions on the card, here's where you would be able to do so with product restrictions, quantity restrictions, and mileage reasonability. Make sure you indicate for each user if they're allowed to fuel at all sites or fuel at specific zones. Once you're done creating this data here, once we're done with this data here, we're going to go ahead to the top right-hand corner and select Save. Next, up at the top, we have Card Utilities. Card Utilities is where we'll be able to tell Phoenis Lite to process certain functions to the Fuel Site Controller, such as updating, sending cards, and restoring cards. We can also see a history of things that have been done inside the Fuel Site Controller as well by selecting the history icon at the top right. Next, we have card imports. Here's where you would go if you had a file of already batched cards that you would like to drop into Phoenis SQL Lite, which you would be able to import card data in a file. Here we have a card reassign tool where you would be able to reassign certain cards either from one account to another or from one card type to another. So if you wanted to change a single card, you would be able to change it to a driver card. If you wanted to change it from a global account, you'd be able to change it to a specified account. Next, on the left-hand side, we have Scheduler. Here is where you're going to go to create certain daily tasks or time tasks that you would like Phoenis SQL to run for you. We can set up a daily poll option by giving it a name, selecting a poll type. Next, we would select our specified site. If you had more sites, you would be able to select from all of them below. Then we're going to navigate over to frequency, and we're going to let the poll know how often to run. We can do a poll that will execute once on a specified day, or we could run a poll at regular intervals, where we would select every 2 days, starting at a certain period of time. And we can do an until feature here, which then would tell the poll to stop running at this date, or we could leave this blank and leave that unchecked, and the poll will continue to run until you remove the event from the scheduler. Up at the top here, we have poll options. Here's where you'll be able to disable card updates with certain polls or poll tank gauges when done with the site controller. Once you're done making the changes to your scheduler events, we can come at the top right-hand corner and hit Save. See transactions on the left-hand side. Here's where we're going to go ahead and see all of the transactions stored inside of Phoenis Lite that are being gathered from the FSC. The transaction data will populate on the left-hand side from newest to old in ascending order, unless you change the filtering options here below. If you wanted to manually add a transaction to the FSC, you'd be able to fill out the information on this right-hand side manually with the specified transaction data, assign it a driver and a vehicle if necessary, and then you'd be able to save the transaction on the top right-hand side. Next, we have export data. Here's where you would select information to export from your Phoenis SQL Lite to your machine if you already have data inside of your Phoenis SQL Lite. By selecting the drop-downs, you can obtain the information you'd like inside of the type of file that you would want. Next up at the top, we have reprice. Here's where we're going to be able to reprice fuels for each specific location. If you select the location on the left-hand side and you have a selected range that you would like to reprice from until, you can select the desired date ranges for reprice and then put in a new specified amount for the fuel that is being repriced. Then in the top right-hand corner, we can hit the reprice button. It's going to warn you that the changes can't be reversed once the price is converted. And then we would just save it. At the top, we have deleted transactions. Here's where you're going to be able to go to recover deleted transactions that you might have accidentally deleted from the fuel site controller or Phoenis SQL Lite. If deleted transactions show here, you would be able to select each deleted transaction and then restore them at the top right-hand side. Next, we have custom exports. These are specific exports that will allow you to export data that you are looking for into a certain file type or template. Next, on the left-hand side, we have ATG transactions. ATG transactions are automatic tank gauge transactions that are communicated to your fuel site directly with quantity data as well as fuel tracking information. We have reports down at the bottom. Here's where we'll be able to go to run all types of pre-made reports. Depending on the information that you are searching for, we have report utilities that will recalculate miles per gallon. Next, we have site reports. Here's where you're going to be able to run specific reports based on sites. If you have multiple sites, you'd be able to individually search for specific site data by selecting individual sites or all sites. Next, we have account reports. Account reports are where we're going to go if we want to run reports based on specific account information, such as users or account types. Next, we have card reports. This is going to be automated reports that are set up to run details based on specific card information. Next, we have transaction reports. Here's where you're going to be able to collect a list of reports based on all of the transactions across all sites or specified sites or users. Then we have product reports, which are going to give you reports based on totals per year or by date for a selected site. And last but not least, we have support tables. These are special reports that are created to give you information based on certain details of cards or accounts inside of Phoenis SQL Lite. Once you're done selecting your criteria for your report, you can generate the reports at the top right-hand side by hitting the Generate button, in which will open up a Excel file for you to view your reporting data. And that is it for the Phoenis SQL Lite training.